everybody. Welcome to the second webisode of the Life After UC Merced webinar series. My name is Jesselyn Twasson. I am a graduate of UC Merced from 2010. Thank you for those of you who joined us last week for our first topic. Tonight's topic is Connect, talking about establishing and building your network. And tonight's guests, we have Rachel Johnson and Jason Rata and Blaine Hartsock.
Hello.
I'll let them all very briefly introduce themselves. If you want to learn more about them, you can check them out on our website, which is Alumni Webinar at wordpress.com or .wordpress.com. All right, Rachel Johnson, why don't you go ahead, give a brief introduction.
Okay. So my name is Rachel Johnson. I am with the class of 2012. I graduated with a double major in cognitive science and literature with a writing minor, and currently I'm a marketing specialist at a Bay Area credit union.
Great, thanks. Go ahead, Jason.
Yes, my name is Jason Rata. You can call me Jason, however. Graduated 2012 with a degree in psychology, and I'm currently working for Huron Consulting Group, which is a consulting company within the legal department as an office manager project coordinator.
Great, thanks. And Blaine.
Hi everyone, my name is Blaine Hartsock. I graduated in 2012 with a BA in World History, and I will be leaving for my Peace Corps service in January, and I will be serving in the country of Vanuatu.
Great, thanks. So for the first question, I kind of want to extend it out to the audience members first. As the speakers were getting together and we were talking about networking, what we thought was really important was trying to figure out how do you define networking? What does networking mean to you? So if anybody in the audience wants to go ahead and tell us what you think of networking, or even if you have no idea what networking is, that's totally fine too. Go ahead and share your thoughts.
It's just like shaking the right hands, meeting people, being social. Because more often than not, it's not how smart you are, it's more the people you know, and whoever you know in the field that you're trying to get into is going to help you get that foot in the door. So networking is essentially just being that.
Excellent. That was way better than I thought one was. All right, so I would like for the speakers to, especially since now you've had more experience professionally, how do you define networking? Any of you guys can jump in on this.
Okay, well, I guess I'll jump in and I'll start defining what networking is. I think for me, networking is about connecting with people to exchange info and develop contacts, especially to further one's career. So there's that social aspect into it as well. So whether it be professional or just within your social circle, it's about really creating that relationship and really building that and establishing that throughout your career. So.
Very nice. Anything anybody wants to add?
Well, for me, I think networking is also about creating quality relationships. So it's not just kind of going here, going there. It's making sure that the relationship is something that you can actually maintain, and it's a good one. And networking can also be a means for you to grow not only professionally, but in terms of experience or in terms of skill, so you can become a better individual in your own right as well.
Great. Nice add-on. How would you guys say that? Oh, were you going to say something, Rachel?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I completely agree with Blaine that I look at networking not just in a professional setting, but also as a personal setting, that you can still develop your skills and just kind of get out there and get to know people, because you never know who's going to be that connection where you want to go. That one day you might want to, like I'm in marketing right now, maybe I want to go into marketing, but later on I might want to switch into a totally different field, and if I've developed that contact over time, then I already had that in to kind of go that other direction that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So it could be anybody at anywhere at any time that can help you out.
Definitely. I'd like to jump in and add that just, a lot of people look at networking as how can you better yourself. A lot of people look at networking as a very selfish kind of endeavor. And another part of networking is not just what are you going to learn, what are you going to get out of the relationship, but what do you have to provide? What skills do you already have? Because everybody has something that they're good at. Even though you haven't had a job before, you've learned stuff in school, you've learned things through experiences growing up, either in group activities or traveling, whatever. You have something to bring to the table and you have something to offer. So I think it's also a matter of thinking about what can I provide to other people. And jumping right into the next question is, how would you say that networking has been important to you? In what ways has it been important to you?
For me personally, networking has just been a really great way to learn more about what's going on around me. Especially after graduating college, it's very difficult to decide upon a career that you're going to want to do for the rest of your life. It's very difficult to do that even before you graduate college. So networking to me was really important because it allowed me to sort of speak with other individuals and hear their stories. And if I connected with certain individuals in a certain sense, I was able to decide, well, that sounds like something I want to do. And it's actually led me to where when I first started college, I really wanted to be a lawyer. And then once I graduated college, and now almost 3 years after, nonprofit sector. So,
Great. I just want to add in here, I forgot to say it at the beginning, but anybody who is watching the live stream online, there is a Q&A feature. At any point during the webinar, you can submit a question online. We will see it on our screens, and we'll try to address it by the end of the webisode. I will let you know that there is about a 15 to 30-second lag between us actually speaking and you viewing it. So your question may not come in right at the time that we're actually talking about it, but we'll try to address it by the end of the webisode. Does anybody else want to touch upon how networking has been important to them? Rachel or Jason? All right.
Oh, well, I guess just to kind of add on to what Blaine said, I think it's important to me because it really broadens my horizon, kind of as far as connecting with people with different backgrounds and different experiences, and kind of going back to that initial kind of question, how do I define networking? It's really kind of learning about them and really creating that connection. So it's important to me personally because now that I'm kind of thinking about advancing my career, possibly going to grad school, business school in particular. So it's important to me to create that relationship with people that I work with, mentors, coaches, career coaches. So I think that's really important to create that and establish that. So, yeah.
Great, thanks. What steps have you guys taken to begin to establish your network? I know all of us are still really young. We're all very fresh in our careers. Some of us just getting started. Some of us don't even really consider what we're doing right now to be our careers. But what steps have you taken to establish your networks?
Oh, go ahead, Blaine.
Go ahead, Ate. No, you're good, Ate.
I think for me, especially within not necessarily like doing stuff on my own personally, but within the realm of my job and things like that, is that I'm taking every opportunity that I can to go to conferences or meetings or chamber or just pretty much anything that's going to get me really important opportunities to see who's out there in the community, who's working the same circuit that you are, who's interested in the same jobs that you are, because even though you're in competition with those people sometimes, they can also help you get to that next step, or maybe you'll end up collaborating with them. And I also think that that's a really important step to take as far as networking is concerned, because it really is about who you know and when you get to know them and how deeply you get to know them. So even if it's something that you just perchance, get to meet them, that it's something that you want to make sure that you get that relationship to the next level by taking them to lunch or going to coffee, just to kind of pick their brains or to see if they have the same industry standards that you do at your job. So I think that that's kind of how most recently that I've been building my network is through conferences and little meetings and things like that.
Nice.
With me, well, I have a question to preface what I'm about to say. Is, how many of us have, like, for an interview or when writing a cover letter, have, like, Googled advice or tips on how to do it?
Oh.
I'm assuming all of us, right?
All the time.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've learned is that you probably do the same thing when trying to figure out how to network, how to establish your network. And that's a good tool, but one of the things that you notice is that you're going to introduce yourself to someone who you want as a member of your network. And they're probably going to have met hundreds of other people who read that exact same article and are doing those exact same steps, and you are essentially a carbon copy of all those hundreds of people. And what you need to understand with establishing a network is you have to be authentic, you have to be genuine, you have to be you, because that's the only way they're going to remember you. If you're a carbon copy, the second the conversation's over, you're out of their mind. They will not remember you. That was a waste of 10 minutes of your time. You need to understand that when you go into a networking opportunity, you need to find out what your strength is. My strength is I'm a very upbeat person, and so I use that whenever I talk to someone. And it's the same way as when you're sort of meeting friends, I guess, when you first enter college. You click with some people and you don't click with others. And you need to make sure that the network that you're establishing, you're clicking with those people. Because if it doesn't work, then you're putting effort into something that's not beneficial. Because networking is a tiring process. I mean, it's very time-consuming, and socially you have to put in a little bit more effort than if you were to just hang out with someone. So I think you need to realize who you are as a person and bring that to the table and make the person understand that this is who I am, and if we click, awesome, we can help each other out in the future, and if we don't, then that's fine. I think you need to really realize that when you're establishing a network, for sure.
Right. I definitely agree with what Blaine said, and to kind of echo a point that she made, she said clicking with the right people. I think that's the most important thing, or at least one of the most important thing about networking, is really clicking with the right people. I know that networking takes kind of just going out of your own shell and then kind of trying to see, testing the waters, meeting people probably not in the same background as you, but it takes more than just kind of like being comfortable within your own realm or the industry that you know. It's more about also connecting with people outside of that industry. So so then you know which kind of circle you belong in, or at least you know that you can foster growth in yourself and can also help others as well. So I think clicking with the right people is very important, like what Blaine said. So I definitely agree with that part. So.
Excellent.
Also, just one real quick add-on. When you're establishing a network, and this kind of sounds like you're trying to build a club, which it might be, but when you're establishing your network, a lot of people sort of disregard how powerful it is to when you just meet someone randomly. You don't have to go to an official function in a suit and tie. You can be going to the potluck or whatever, and it's just a fun little thing, and you can connect with people that way. And I think a lot of people sort of overlook that because it's so casual, but casual meetings are actually one of the better ways to introduce yourself to someone who you really want to have a quality networking connection with, for sure.
Right. So it's just kind of like not only knowing them professionally and knowing what they do, but also kind of knowing them, getting to know them in a personal level, So I agree with that fact as well. So it's really important to make those kind of building a rapport with them personally to start with,
Yeah, great. It not only, makes you more memorable when you make a personal connection with them, but it also makes a connection feel more genuine. And you're more likely to remember that person later on. You won't have as hard of a time maintaining that relationship or, reaching out to them if you can remember, like, oh, yeah, Sally has 3 kids and her daughter also played baseball like I played baseball, something like that. Um, all right, next question is, in what ways do you utilize your network? We talked a lot about how you find the right people, how you stick out, how you make the connections. But then once you make the connections, what do you do with that?
I mean,
I'll go.
I'll say for me, if Blair, do you want to go? So I think for me and my experiences, there were two kind of most recent ones. One was probably about maybe a year and a half ago, that I was in a class and I was interested in social media, and I got a contact at our local, through my class at our local community college, and I ended up running the social media for a small business in the area. So that's something that I was able to put on my resume for going forward into doing social media marketing. That's kind of just that little step to get there. And then in the job that I'm in now, when I first got hired at the credit union, I knew somebody that worked there. And so that's kind of how I knew that they were looking for somebody. So I really feel like with how I've used my networking opportunities is really to just kind of see those opportunities and see them for what they are, big or small, to kind of put on my resume. So that's kind of how I've utilized those pieces of my network. I've also just kind of gone to either coffee or lunch with some of the people in my network, and so those have just been really good opportunities, like I said earlier, to just that I'm thinking of, and to even just see what they think about the industry, where it's going, and just kind of get those conversations started, not necessarily to find opportunities in those fields, but just to kind of know what other people are thinking, kind of just like Jason and Blaine were talking about, to build that rapport, even if you're just talking about kind of those simple subjects.
Blaine, you want to jump in here?
No, I think out there Rachel covered everything that I was going to say, so I completely agree with her. Yeah.
Way to be forthcoming. Okay. So we'll just jump into the next question then. What have you done to expand your network? I mean, I feel like we've touched upon this a little bit. We've touched upon how, it's not just about, what you currently know and what your current circle is, but how do you go beyond that? If you guys want to touch upon that a little bit deeper, if you guys have specific experiences you want to recall, maybe an unlikely network connection that you made.
I'll talk about it. I Okay, I'll do this in two parts. The first part, in talking of expanding your network, is I went to a training while in my previous position with AmeriCorps and CCC FEMA Corps, and I actually met he was a member of the West Virginia government, and we kind of just had a conversation over coffee, which was really random. I told him I didn't like it. He was like, oh my goodness, like, you need to try this, and I still didn't like it, but it was a nice introduction, and it was just a really kind of nice conversation we had. And then I ended up finding out that he worked for the West Virginia government, and he actually offered us the opportunity for a tour of the state capitol, which was really awesome. It was a beautiful building. It was really, really wonderful. But that's how I've been able to expand my network, is just sort of kind of introducing myself to people, starting small conversations, and if something clicks, then you're able to expand on that conversation, and that conversation could lead to other opportunities, which in this case it did. Two of that is with expanding networks, it also becomes difficult, because if you're starting off with like a couple people, your college friends, and then you graduate, and then suddenly you're getting more professional, you're getting more and more and more and more people, it becomes more difficult to maintain those contacts. So I tend not to focus so much on expanding my network, but rather nurturing my network. My way is by sending like holiday cards. So Halloween, Christmas, whatever. I just think that when it comes to those two things, expanding and nurturing, you really have to sort of find your niche. And for me, it's small talk and arts and crafts. And so I think that would, if once you figure out what kind of works for you, networking, even though it is tedious, becomes a lot more easier to work with and kind of easily surf through, I guess.
Great. Anyone else want to jump in on this? Or I can move on. All right. Next question is, now we go talking about tools for networking. So I wanted you guys to share a little bit about how you use online tools for networking. I know, Jason, you're really active on LinkedIn. Of course, all of us have Facebook. Not a lot of people consider Facebook to be a networking tool in their professional lives, but as more and more people are on Facebook and our lives between personal and professional are melding, of course, we have to be conscious of that as well. Whoever wants to jump in on this first.
Right. So for me, I just like what Jesselyn said. I use LinkedIn a lot, and for like, it's kind of a journey for me almost because before, like, we don't really know about LinkedIn, and now it's getting more attention, and a lot more people are using it nowadays. But before, I think I started using it 2012, I think the year after, or at least when I graduated college. That's when I'm like, I should just try and establish a LinkedIn account. So just pretty much I just copied and pasted my resume info to my page, and then kind of and then I had people kind of look at it and see what should I change, what should I do to make it more kind of appealing, so when a recruiter or anyone that I hope to connect with, when they see it, it's like, oh, okay, this person has done this and that. So it took a lot of trial and error, and I guess part of that is also really knowing your niche, like we've mentioned before, what you're putting your strengths, putting what you're good at. And I know there's different kind of like choices, like let's say you're endorsing some type of skill that you have, like you know how to do Microsoft Office, whatever, you know how to utilize social media, kind of stuff like that. So there are different features in that, but so I guess for me it was just a journey preparing or at least establishing a LinkedIn account, and then from there on having and acquiring a lot more experiences, that's when I kind of got more active into it. So what I do now is I just go on to posting like a motivational quote that I find online to kind of push me personally, and also posting that to the public and seeing that people can see that and they can relate to that in some way, shape, or form. So it's more about kind of doing that, and also sharing opportunities that I find online, like job openings, like, hey, there's an opportunity within this company if anyone's interested, and also catching up with people that have graduated. So kind of like messaging them, giving them a personal note, saying, hey, we should catch up, we should, you know, grab coffee, stuff like that. So there are different ways that I use it personally, but those are just the most, I guess, the things that I do with the LinkedIn specifically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How would you specifically, just on differentiate the way you use Facebook with the way you use LinkedIn?
Right. Facebook, it's really about that's within your social kind of like network, right? So it's different in a way that on Facebook I post more of like what I'm personally interested in besides work, kind of separating that, you know. So like putting like a link to like a YouTube channel or a song or funny GIFs or GIFs however you pronounce that, and sharing that to people with common interests. So that's just how I think for me how I differentiate both or kind of control both aspects of networking, socially and professionally.
Yeah, Facebook is more casual, more intimate, more
Right.
personal, and LinkedIn
Right.
where there's kind of that level of this is a line
Mhm.
across here.
Right. There's a certain line that you can't really cross, and it's really about making that um, not persona, but like an appeal to people. So that also goes into kind of Facebook as well. So if you want to post like a news or something like that, it's really up to you to utilize that to your own discretion. So
Yeah. Right. This actually segues very nicely into the next question, and I'd actually like to pose this question to the audience again. I know you guys are on social networking all the time. It's natural. Everybody uses social networking. How do you guys control, or I guess not how do you control, but how do you decide what you want to post out there and what you don't want to post out there, either in your personal networks or your professional networks anyway? What kind of personal filters do you put on yourself when you post things online?
And you can be honest and say you don't.
Oh, nothing too personal. I don't post anything too super personal. I don't post like blog posts. I don't post like my opinion out there too much. Um, I mean, the most thing I do post is just photos. So I feel like that's all I do post. Or
Yeah.
I'm not really big on like I don't know. Like putting yourself out there on social media for like people to see you.
Yeah. You post your photos also kind of because that's do you make money off of your photos, or is it a
It's just like to do. It's what I like to do.
yeah.
People think I do make money off of it, which is pretty cool. But
Pretty professional, so I'm sure you could make money off of them.
it's like I don't know. There's too many people. It's too many people trying to be the same thing.
Mm.
So it's kind of lame when people are just like, oh, I have a camera. Am I pro? And it's like, but that's what I mean. It's whatever.
Yeah.
right. I actually have a follow-up question to that. So then you mentioned that it's just pretty much people trying to be kind of like the same vanilla, so how do you then differentiate yourself from that crowd specifically with
Um, I guess for photography, whatever. Like if you're really into like your craft, you would know how like stuff is made and how like you would get from point A to point B. I edit my photos, so that's like something that like every good photographer should do. But you could totally tell um, when you look at basically like comparing with other people around you. The people around me that I've seen is just like there's definitely people who are like really good because you understand, but then there's also people who are just like why like you're not even that good, but you're calling yourself like you're a pro because I definitely know that it was so easy to do, or blah blah blah.
Well, I will say that part of networking is kind of just having a lot of confidence in yourself. If you call yourself something, regardless of what you will get a lot of recognition and a lot of attention. And that's also one way to not just network, but also learn a lot too. I mean, of course, you don't want to lie and say you know stuff you don't know. But if you kind of see yourself as an authority figure and portray yourself as an authority figure, people are going to
Basically
treat
sell yourself, right?
yeah, basically. I'm not good at it, but there are some people who are just naturally good at it.
and can I add something to that, Jesselyn? I think part of creating your image online is also has to do with the industry that you want to be in. So let's say if you want to be part of like if you're going towards like going to an art industry, you want to create some type of portfolio or your collection of your work, and then posting that on some type of social media out there, maybe Instagram or even LinkedIn. putting your own portfolio there, that can happen, or Facebook. So I think it kind of also varies within the industry that you want to go into, whether it be art, fashion, sciences, or what have you, marketing. There are ways to kind of create or create your own kind of image, so that way you can differentiate yourself to others.
Definitely. Yeah. So we asked the audience what they think. Oh, go ahead, Blaine.
Posted by Kuya Randall, and I actually had an answer for that ties into what Jason said. So Kuya Randall was asking about how sometimes we run into random networking opportunities, and if once do we have our own personal business cards, or do we just keep copies of our resume on hand? I don't keep copies of my resume on hand. I think that's a little too much paperwork, but I actually do have business cards. I actually bought some from Vistaprint. One of the things that you could definitely do is look into having a personal card. You don't need to have a tagline with it. It doesn't need to say like Vice Exec of the Filipino American Alliance on it. Even if you are, that's fabulous. But it just has to have your information on it. So if you do run into those sorts of situations, you're not randomly scribbling your number or your email on a ripped off piece of paper that person could, accidentally crumple up and throw away. They have an actual card with your information on it, and it for me personally, it's been a very good way of keeping in contact, and it's a tiny little reminder that they met me. So that if they forget for like a week or so, they find it randomly in their purse or their wallet or their pocket or something, and they're like, oh, I remember her, and hopefully contact me for some sort of opportunity. So it's a really good thing to get in the habit of. And there's tons of websites out there that will allow you to sort of design something that, once again, really speaks about who you are as an individual. So that's definitely something that people should look into for sure.
Thanks for adding that in. I kind of wanted to take it back to how we were talking about online tools, Facebook and LinkedIn. Jason had kind of touched upon it in terms of like how Facebook and LinkedIn differentiate between what types of circles you're around. And so I pitched the question to the audience, but I'd like to pitch it back to you guys as the speakers. Is in what ways do you guys filter yourselves online? How do you control your online image? And how do you, if you use different platforms, how do you differentiate the way you portray yourself online on those different platforms?
Well, and I can kind of speak to that because I know that Jason was talking about the differences between Facebook and LinkedIn, and I kind of feel like Twitter for me is kind of the melding of the two, because I've been to conferences where I'm live tweeting, so I'm using the specific hashtag for the conference that I'm at, and I'm live tweeting from my personal Twitter account instead of like from the business account, that I'm there for. So it's something where I've had people that I've met, that I've networked at those conferences start to follow me on Twitter because they see that I'm using that hashtag, or that I've had other professional kind of people that I follow then follow me back on Twitter. So it's something that and it's also when I'm curating my own content that I find myself doing different things like live tweeting from sporting events that I'm at, whether it be a baseball game or a soccer game, but then, or just tweeting about sports in general. But then I'll also tweet about other things that have to do with marketing, or I'll retweet a really interesting article that I feel like is about marketing in the marketing world. So for me, I feel like Twitter is kind of that mix between my professional and my personal life. I know as far as online image that I always keep in mind when I'm on a professional network or something that I also use for professional things, so like Twitter or LinkedIn, that I always keep in mind about like the pictures that I'm posting of myself, that the pictures that I'm posting of other things, that I know that Randall, I think, had posed a question like, would I be okay with my boss seeing this? And that's like on Twitter, where I'm using it for both personal and professional, that I always make sure that I'm looking at those things, that I always make sure before I tweet something that I'm spelling it correctly, that it's grammatically correct, because you don't want to have somebody, anybody can Google you, whether it's whether it's somebody that you work with, if it's somebody that's interested in hiring you, if it's just a friend, anybody can Google you. And if your stuff is on public, then anybody can find you. And you don't want to look like that fool if you're trying to get a job by having misspellings and incorrect stuff, even if it's something that you're just using for personal use. So that's kind of some of the things that I always keep in mind when I'm posting on something that could be seen either way.
Yeah, great.
I personally don't have much of an online social media presence. I think the most I have is Facebook, but Facebook can be very involved. One of the things I think a lot of people tend to forget with Facebook is, yes, you have a lot of privacy settings, but if you consider the fact that I joined Facebook when I was a freshman in college, so almost, oh my God, almost 6 years ago, and I have my Facebook settings are essentially no one can look at it unless you're my friend, but I also have about 400 friends on Facebook. So one of the things that you have to realize when you're on Facebook is this idea that you are only sharing it with your friends, but your friends have probably 300 other friends, and 300 and 300 other friends. I mean, you see it all the time on the submit a Facebook status about how angry they are about a tip, or that they saw a little child kick a puppy, or whatever. And suddenly the entire news circuit has it. CNN's reporting on it, ABC's reporting on it, whatever. And so a lot of people need to realize that when you do have social media, even though you have privacy settings, you are friends with a lot of people, and they, in turn, can give other people access to what you're saying. So you have to sort of treat social media, even with its privacy settings, as if everyone can see it. And I think with things like Snapchat or Vine, well, no, not Vine, but definitely Snapchat, it's a little bit more private, but with things like Facebook and Twitter, you're allowing other people to see things, and you really need to wonder exactly who you're friends with and who your friends are friends with, and whether or not that's going to look bad upon you when you're trying to get a job.
Definitely. Great input. Thanks for throwing that in there. JJ told me that somebody in the audience wanted to kind of touch back again on the topic, so let me unmute you. Give me a second. There you go. Yeah, go for it.
LinkedIn is way more professional than Facebook, so it's like so much different comparing one to the other. Like with Facebook, or like with LinkedIn, you can't put a picture of yourself like at a party compared to like Facebook. So it's like, I don't know, like Facebook, you're seen in a different way. Like I try not to post any status on Facebook because I don't want people to be like, oh, this is how she thinks, or I just don't want to be judged a certain way. That's the reason why I don't post anything on Facebook, because of how many people can see it. And yeah, I feel like you have to censor yourself a lot in all social media, because people are looking at you, and you may just be friends with your friends, but they could be, you don't know who they're showing your stuff to as well. So
Definitely. Yeah, great input. I do agree with that. I do feel like LinkedIn, you definitely have to have a very professional persona of yourself. Like, I feel like the way I am on LinkedIn is kind of what Jason said. When you said you joined LinkedIn, you basically just copy pasted your resume onto your profile. And I mean, do you guys feel like your resumes represent who you are as a complete person? No.
Of course not.
No.
So yeah,
right.
so it is a bit more dynamic than a resume, which is nice. I do think LinkedIn has kind of helped professional networking get to that next level, that it needs to be on a more personal level, but there is still definitely the distinction between Facebook and LinkedIn. My first job out of college, I'm just going to touch upon this experience very briefly, was for a software company that sold software to the government to go into people's computers and access personal information from them. They did this through investigations. They wouldn't just like randomly choose people to hack, but it would be based on somebody they arrested or somebody who's on trial for something, and so our tools would allow them to go into somebody's computer and find information on them. And you kind of have this feeling like once you delete something, it's gone. Or, this goes for both the internet as well as for just on your personal computer, just a personal file or folder that you have. You think you deleted, it's gone. It's not. It's not gone. And so, especially on the internet, a lot of people say, as soon as you post it, it's out there. It's out of your control. You could have said that, hey, nobody's going to see this, it's private, but what if your account got hacked? Or what if, you accidentally didn't put it private? You posted it as public so everybody in your network can see it, even though you only wanted to send it to, like, your best college buddies because, you're reminiscing on your college drinking days or something. So that's something that you just really need to be careful about. Yeah, Facebook has the reputation of being more personal, but at the same time, I mean, we all have seen the headlines and the stories about people getting burned for having said the wrong thing. They thought they were protected. They thought it was private or it was only being sent to a few people, but it hasn't been. So it's something that's I find really fascinating because it's such a new way of communication. But it's all recorded and it's all out there, and you just have to constantly be reminding yourself, like, is this who I want to be seen as? Do I want other people to judge me based on what I'm putting out here?
Right.
So great.
And I think just to kind of add on to what Jesselyn said is that not only is it something like as a way to kind of put yourself out there as far as creating an image of yourself, but you have to realize also that it is a tool, that it is a powerful tool, that it's more, has a great presence all over the world. So whether it be, let's say, posting like a video of like someone getting treated unfairly and it becomes national news. So that then becomes a much powerful tool to use to raise awareness and to kind of spread that to everyone. So in a way, I see it also not only as a way to kind of create your own personal image, but also creating public awareness into anything that you're passionate about or anything that you find interesting in a way that other people can benefit from it. Good things, not just like things that you post like really bad or whatever, but just use it, again, just use it per your discretion and know that it is really powerful.
Yeah, great. We're going to bring it back to the floor.
No? You sure? Okay.
I'll change your mind. Okay.
Just as a final thing on my part with this question, if any of you watching or in the audience are interested in your online presence might look like, there's tons of tools. There's one tool that I've been able to use called Reppler, REPPLER.com, where you can attach your social media. I think it's Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and LinkedIn, and it can kind of go through it and sort of see like the majority of what your posts are like, what your grade is. I received like a 92, I think. It also talks about what your security settings are and stuff like that. It gives you an idea. It can also tell you if you have anything like profane on your pages that they suggest you might want to get rid of, just in case. But it's a really good tool to have if you're ever curious about what your online presence looks like. And AteJJ put it in the question section as well. So
yeah, I'll post it directly on that event page too, so you guys can see the link and click on it. Thanks for sharing that, Blaine. And I actually used it when we got together last week and we were planning. I used it, and there were a couple things that pinged. There was one that pinged because it was bad language on Twitter, but it was just because I had retweeted somebody else, and it was actually I'm not offended to have that on there because it was about a Black Lives Matter thing. It was about some celebrity had posted something saying Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that all other lives don't matter. They said, like, just because people say save the rainforest doesn't mean they're saying fuck all kinds of other forests. I was like, that's so true. So that's why I posted it. Anyway, yeah, it was really interesting to see how quickly that'll pop up. The Repler thing will pop up red flags. Anybody else want to touch upon online image before we move on to the last question? We have 8 minutes left.
I think maybe just something that I want to throw out as an idea that you'll probably come up against is workplace. And we've talked about a lot how, like, we're expanding our network, how we want to go out and get people on our network. But I also just wanted to touch upon kind of like, what if people want to come into your realm, especially when it's like your personal life and somebody at work wants to add you on Facebook. So, because I know that that's happened to me, and I'm kind of wary of that because, of course, like, there's going to be that occasional time that you're playing hooky and you want to post, you know, how much fun you're having with friends or whatnot, like on that day, but you called in sick, and you have to really be measured and remember, like, who's on your Facebook, you know, who can see that, who can't. So it doesn't just stop, I think, at the networking piece, that it even goes beyond that sometimes, because people ask you, you know, oh yeah, or they add you just like that awkward friend in a class that you had no idea that they knew who you were, and then all of a sudden they're in your friend request box and you don't quite know what to do. But at least with the class, you only see them maybe once every 3 days. But with somebody in the workplace, you're going to see them every day, and they might even ask you, like, hey, have you added me yet? So it's not something that I necessarily have advice on, but just be aware of that situation, and that it's most likely going to come up sometime in your professional experience, and just think about how you're going to handle that and where you're going to go with that.
I can actually give a little bit of advice on that, because a lot of the jobs that I've had have involved social media, or I post on social media constantly as a representative of companies. And so a lot of people see, hey, Jesslyn, she works for this company. Why don't I friend request her? And for the most part, my general rule is I do not friend people on Facebook who are current coworkers. After I leave the job, maybe we'll consider it. But for me, it's like Facebook is way too personal. You know, I can control what I post, but, you know, I have family members, I have friends who might tag me in something, and I can't always have immediate control over who's going to see what. So at least for me, I've always found it as a general handy tool to to keep current coworkers out of it for now. After I've left a job, I have friended coworkers, and it's been okay so far, I think. But thanks for that. That was good. All right, I'm going to move on to the last question. We've got 5 minutes left, and we do have one question online that I want to address as well. But so the last question is, what experiences at UC Merced have helped you practice networking? If anyone wants to talk about
for me,
yeah.
It was definitely joining my sorority, which Delta Gamma, right here. That wasn't intentional, I promise. But when I joined Delta Gamma, I was it is a social organization. And so I was kind of forced into a situation where I had to get to know about 60 girls, and then every year we would have recruitment, and I'd have to get to know even more girls. And as kind of socially draining as that was, because, you know, I'm sort of an introvert. I'm not very extroverted. I'm an introvert. As socially draining as that was, I did meet some fabulous, fabulous people, and it sort of got me realizing how important networking is. And I was able to use that plus my experience with PAA, which was also a huge organization at UCM, to practice that. And I think that a lot of people can sort of see creating new friends as a baby step towards creating a network for yourself during and after college. And I think that was probably the easiest transition, for me, at the very least.
Nice. Thanks for adding that in. Anybody else want to touch upon particular experiences during their college days?
I think maybe for me it was a little bit more of maybe getting to know kind of like my professors and my teachers and my TAs, because that's kind of how I found myself getting some experience as far as like working in a cognitive science lab kind of on the side, and just different kinds of opportunities that way. So I found that I think experience that helped me at UCM were, I think PAA did help, like when we were doing events, like really big events, and we were asking for help from different places like OSL and from other clubs. So when I was on cabinet, that kind of networking experience happened for me. But I think kind of fostering and nurturing the relationships, like Blaine was talking about earlier with like my professors and my TAs, I think that's probably where I got the most practice at having good networking skills at UCM.
Yeah, I think for me, besides PAA, and I know PAA, it's just like social stuff, you know, like you just connect with them and build that relationship with the people in the club. But for me, particularly, an experience that I had at UCM is when I was accepted to the UCDC program, and that happened the last semester of my senior year, spring 2012. And that was just like a total change for me, a cultural shock indeed. So I was there for a semester interning at a nonprofit, and then at night taking classes, and even at weekends at times. So while there, I was able to connect with people from other UCs, students, professors, and also they had like a career night, a couple of occasions, and then I was there to kind of like to see what it is. And so in that particular moment, it was just alums from different UCs, and in each table there's an alum, and those are just current people that are currently living and working in DC, and that's how I got practicing to kind of building my networking skills with them, exchanging contacts. I'm getting to know how they are, how they were able to kind of transition from working from California to DC, the whole movement, and also kind of, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry, but overall it was just that experience. I'm sorry, but it was just that experience for me where I got the practice of networking, or at least starting to practice that. So that was good.
Great. Yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions to follow up with any of the speakers, you can always reach out to us on Facebook, reach out to us on the website. And if you have specific questions, like for Jason about his UCDC experience, we can get you in touch with him, and he can share a little bit more about that. It is 9 o'clock. I would like to check in just for a couple minutes. Do you guys in the room have any questions or anything you wanted to follow up on that we talked about tonight? No.
I'm good.
Good.
Jesselyn, was there a question?
What's that?
A question.
There was a question online.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to check in with the people in the room at first, since it is 9 o'clock, and if you guys need to go, that's totally fine. For the people who are online, you know, this is being recorded, so they don't have to watch it right now. They can come back and get their question answered later. The only person who asked the question was Randall, and Randall's question is, he says, as was said, you can run into networking opportunities randomly. Have you looked into ordering your own personal business card, even if the card is not associated with a company? Or do you keep printed copies of your resume on hand? So I don't know if Blaine, if this is about you.
That's the question that I was referring to, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so you had answered it already.
Yeah, sorry. I just saw it pop up, and I was like, oh, it works in perfectly with Jason's talking of branding yourself and stuff like that. So.
I totally missed the fact that you were addressing a question. I thought you were just putting it out there that you use business cards.
No, you're
She
fine.
made it
It's fine.
seamlessly in that
My bad.
Yeah,
segue.
no, I
So
apologize.
that
I
was
should have.
good.
Reading skills, just.
I,
Um,
No, but I guess to answer that for me, our company requires us to have business cards. So it's just we order that through the company. So we put in whatever we want to put in there, and then I have actually my own copies of that. So I put that on my desk, and at social events, I have that at hand just to give out if I happen to stumble upon someone that I would like to connect with. So yeah, business cards are useful. You can even just, I guess, yeah, you don't have to carry your own resume. Just remember that there's LinkedIn, so give them a link to your LinkedIn profile, email them, whatever. So I think for me, that's how at least I use that.
yeah.
you could add that onto your on your personal card. I mean,
Right.
who was it that said that they did pictures?
No.
Jesselyn were you the one that said you did pictures on Facebook?
No, Renell was saying he does.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Whoa. Totally wrong person. You were
We're
part of the conversation. I think that's why I remembered you. But Renell, one of the personal business card is you could definitely write down any skills that you have, and for you it would be photo taking, and you could put that like on the back of the business card. I know one of the people that I worked with, one of their skills was that they were a yoga or a yogi, I guess you could say, and they put that on the back of their personal card. So you can also input your skills. You can actually have the HTML of your LinkedIn account or any blogs that you have. But a business card, again, is just a really great way to brand yourself in a very small, compact, carry size option for when you do meet someone for a networking opportunity. So it's definitely something that you guys should look into. And having a lot is actually a good thing, because you never know if you're just going to randomly go to a festival and then suddenly 50 people who are like, oh my god, you're the most amazing person I've ever met, want to just hand out those cards, and then you could become famous. So
Yeah,
it's just a good thing to have.
definitely. Go for it, Rachel.
And I actually have both of the options, so I'm kind of like a mix between Blaine and Jason, because I have my own for my company. So if I'm at like kind of a social media conference and I'm there professionally with the credit union that I work for, then I can choose to pass out those if I want to network that way. Or I also have my own personal ones that I kind of designed, or I took a design off of Vistaprint. And there are tons of tools online if you just search like about business cards, because I don't specifically remember the website or the article that I was looking at, but you can even delve into what people think of colors. So I know that I chose yellow for mine because I'm just a bright and sunny person just in general, so I thought that went well with my personality to choose a yellow and white business card that to me looked very clean, looked very professional. And just like Blaine was talking about with URLs, that because I put on there, social media /writer, so I put the URL to my blog on the bottom of that. So I need to keep that updated. So if you're blogging, please keep a blog updated. That's just a side note. But then they can get to my blogs. They can see what I've done. They can see the range of what I write, and that I also have on there for my resume. So they don't necessarily have to have my LinkedIn link, but you can do that. You can put on there, if you're tweeting professionally, you can put your handle on there. I've thought about doing that. And then just basic contact information like an email, or if you want to give your phone number, then that can go on there. But I find that having a personal business card is also very helpful in networking, because you never know, especially with those random meetings, who you're going to meet, which one you're going to want to kind of give out, and whether you want to the place of business that you're at currently, or if you kind of want to stand alone and offer your services kind of on a pro bono to beef up your resume. So it's just I would just weigh both of what you think you would want to do or where you would want to go. I completely advocate for having your own personal business cards because I think before I got the professional ones that I was still able to network without having a professional kind of business, and that just like Blaine was saying, then you're not scribbling that down on a piece of paper. You don't know if it's going to get thrown away. You don't know, how much that piece of paper is going to mean to somebody. But if you have a personal business card that has something that's really unique on it, they're going to remember you.
Yeah. Especially for today, a lot of people don't really stick around the same job or the same company for a very long time.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for me, I graduated, 5 years ago, and I think I'm now with like the 5th company I've worked for, maybe. And I don't have a personal business card, and the more I network, the more I definitely see a need for it. I mean, I do think that obviously, having smartphones today makes it really easy to just immediately connect with somebody online. You can either put them as a digital contact in your phone, or you can find them on LinkedIn on your phone. So even though I don't have business cards or personal business cards, personal branding cards is really what they're called. I do use my phone, and I think that's a great eco-friendly way to network. And okay, but it is 9:07. There is one last question that I would like to keep within 3 minutes so that we can all get out of here at a reasonable hour. The last question is, what are some tips on keeping the conversation going when networking either in person or online? Anybody wants to jump in on this?
I can answer that for sure because I've traveled a lot. I've met a bunch of people in my previous positions, and with this, I think the easiest thing to do is if the conversation's stale or stagnant, and you're not clicking with the person, then you kind of have to just let it go. That's one of those networking opportunities that are not working for you, and it's going to be more draining than it is going to be benefiting you.
Well, it's sometimes a two-way street, right? You do some work and they do some work too, right?
Yeah, it's a two-way street. So you have to put it in and they have to put it in, and you can go with some of the small things like because I'm a Delta Gamma, because I'm half Filipino, because I'm Californian. Californian, just a side note, is apparently a very good way to start a conversation with a lot of people who are not Californian. And then you add in the whole Delta Gamma thing, and that's just kind of interesting. But you kind of just find things about yourself that you can talk about, and hopefully just kind of bring them up, and then see if they have anything. Like, if I'm wearing my Delta Gamma sweater, that's definitely something that another person can come up and be like, oh, so you're in Greek life. What do you think about that? If I see someone wearing a Lakers jersey, maybe that's, conversation starter or something. But to keep the conversation going, you just sort of have to either...
Oh, she's
She's about to say
well,
it. What?
I think she's talking about balancing between, knowing yourself really well, knowing what you bring to the table, but also working on the fly. You got to be observant about what do you see in front of you? How does this person hold themselves? How do they, what do they represent? Sorry, Blaine, you kind of glitched out, so I had to fill in for you. But yeah, does either Rachel or Jasam, you want to jump on this really quickly before we?
I think that was pretty perfect. The only thing that I was going to say, which Blaine already covered, was just kind of knowing when the conversation's over. Like, you don't want to drag it out because you're going to make it kind of painful and awkward for you. You're probably making it painful and awkward for them. So, just closing out, I think, on a nice note would be good if you feel like the conversation isn't really clicking. But I think Blaine had great points.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it all comes with practice. You get better and better as you go along. I've definitely had really awkward conversations with my first job. I had to go to conferences all the time. I didn't know anything about the product, but they still wanted me to talk to customers. And so I just had to make stuff up some of the time. So it's really just practicing, getting better and better as you go along. All right, we are definitely overdue here. I want to say thank you to everybody who joined in the room. Thanks, Clara and Renelle. And thanks everybody who joined us online. Have a good night, you guys, and don't forget to tune in next Monday night for the next episode, which we will talk about unconventional paths after college. So tune in next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you.